From all of us here at Arirang, thank you for watching. Here's to the next 30 years.
Five.
In
Action.
action.
Let's go. Simply K-pop. Hello, everybody. I am Simply K-pop's MC Alan of Gravity.
네, 여러분 안녕하세요. 심플리 K-pop MC 그래비티 원진입니다.
Then this week's Simply K-pop. Don't miss out.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are set to hold a second day of talks today, before the U.S. leader wraps up his two-day state visit to Beijing. Although the two leaders met for more than 2 hours yesterday, the summit ended without major breakthroughs on key issues including trade and Taiwan. South Korea's benchmark KOSPI index has set a new record by climbing above the 8,000 mark shortly after the market opened this morning. The milestone comes just about a week after the index first crossed the 7,000 level. Official candidate registration for the June 3rd local elections closes today. Contenders that formally joined the race will begin official campaigning on May 21st. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We begin today in Beijing, where U.S. President Donald Trump concludes his state visit today. Despite the presence of American tech executives signaling a sharp focus on economic competition, the summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping has yielded no sweeping structural trade agreements. Our Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are entering the final hours of Trump's high-stakes state visit to Beijing. Discussions have so far yielded no practical agreements or breakthroughs on core structural issues. Instead, the focus has remained on personal diplomacy and the management of a competitive relationship. Cooperation was emphasized during a state banquet on Thursday, but through President Trump's invitation to the Chinese leader to visit Washington later this year and President Xi's reply.
Thank you again, President Xi, for this beautiful welcome, and tonight it is my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th and we look forward to it. And
The people of China and the United States are both great peoples. The goals of realizing the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and making America great again can fully proceed in parallel without contradiction. They can mutually reinforce each other and benefit the world.
However, the rhetoric has not translated into policy shifts, with friction remaining over tech export controls and industrial subsidies. Furthermore, the two sides have yet to reach an agreement regarding Taiwan, leaving the most sensitive point of regional tension unresolved. Before the official conclusion of the state visit, the two leaders are scheduled to meet at the Zongnanhai compound for tea and a working lunch. This is expected to be followed by a highly publicized stroll, providing one last opportunity for dialogue before President Trump departs the Chinese capital. 김도현, Arirang News.
And U.S. President Donald Trump also says he reached a key understanding with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Iran and the Strait of Hormuz during summit talks in Beijing. Trump also claimed that Xi offered to help negotiate an end to the conflict and pledged that China would not provide military equipment to Tehran. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed during summit talks in Beijing that Iran must never obtain nuclear weapons and that the Strait of Hormuz should remain open in a development that could help revive stalled U.S.-Iran peace negotiations. According to the White House on Thursday, both leaders agreed on the importance of keeping the strategically vital shipping route open to protect global energy supplies. Washington also stated that Xi opposed any militarization of the strait and expressed interest in increasing U.S. crude oil purchases. The agreement reflects one of Trump's key demands for ending the conflict in the Middle East. Ahead of the summit, U.S. officials had urged China to use its influence over Tehran to help ease tensions in the Gulf region. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said China has a strong interest in resolving the crisis because it relies heavily on energy shipments passing through the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also said Beijing was expected to engage figures close to Iran's leadership quietly. China, however, struck a noticeably more cautious tone after the talks. Beijing confirmed Middle East issues were discussed, but did not specifically mention the White House claim that both sides agreed Iran should never possess nuclear weapons. Analysts say China appears reluctant to fully align with Washington's approach as it seeks to preserve leverage over Iran while protecting its own strategic interests in the region. Following the summit, Trump told Fox News that Xi had also offered to help negotiate an end to the war and support efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to global shipping. Trump says Xi expressed a willingness to play a constructive role in helping resolve the conflict and stabilize shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. president also claimed Xi assured him China would not provide military equipment to Iran, although questions remain over Beijing's broader economic and strategic ties with Tehran. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Japan's Prime Minister Haeundae Takaichi will take a two-day trip to South Korea next week for a summit with President Lee Jae-myung. According to the Blue House on Friday, they will sit down on May 19th in Lee's hometown of Andong, which will involve an expanded session, joint press conference, and dinner. Seoul's top office says the leaders will discuss bilateral ties, as well as cooperation on the economy and society. Also on the agenda is the situation in the Middle East. And there's interest in whether they discuss possible cooperation on energy supply and critical minerals. The leaders last met in Takaichi's hometown of Nara Prefecture in January. As Seoul looks to deepen its strategic partnerships, as emphasized by the Foreign Ministry on Thursday, a senior diplomat spoke with Arirang News to highlight how pragmatic diplomacy is unfolding in practice. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
People and partnerships are at the heart of Seoul's expanding diplomatic reach. Deputy Minister for Public Diplomacy Im Sang-woo is playing an active role in deepening ties across the global south while strengthening support for Koreans abroad. Since taking office last December, Kenya and Madagascar were among his first overseas trips, ahead of a ministerial meeting involving 54 African countries next month.
This is also in the context of our diplomacy that focuses more on strengthening our relationship with the Global South. And of course, Africa is an integral part of the Global South.
Global South Outreach featured in President Lee Jae-myung's summit last month with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, marking the first Korean state visit to India in 8 years.
Both leaders, they demonstrated their strong resolve to take our Korea-India relations to the next level, especially with an emphasis on strengthening collaboration in key strategic industries such as semiconductors, shipbuilding, and AI. And we also had 15 MOUs signed on that occasion, and we agreed to establish a ministerial level platform to discuss these very important areas.
One crucial agreement supports Korean SMEs investing in India, an initiative Im personally worked on during his posting in New Delhi. His diplomacy went beyond official meetings, from creating viral videos to volunteering as a guide at India's National Museum, a first for a foreign diplomat. His outreach now informs his role overseeing Korea's, the Foreign Ministry's public diplomacy platform, supported by 20 Koreans and 20 foreign nationals representing 18 countries.
We are committed to running this channel not as just a platform to showcase Korean culture, but really a channel where genuine dialogue takes place with our friends from all over the world. And this year we've actually launched a campaign that's called the Youthful Tomorrow, where it's all about youth empowerment and how the youth can get together to map out the future.
But as Korea's global reach expands, so does the responsibility of protecting some 7 million overseas nationals amid risks from armed conflict and natural disasters to transnational crime.
Our guiding principle has been to provide Koreans security, protection to a level that they would expect to have at home. So in that way, Koreans, wherever they are in the world, they can feel secure, they can feel safe, having this assurance that the Korean government will be there to provide assistance if needed.
Im last week travelled to Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam, where holders working with local authorities to tackle online scam operations involving Koreans.
The most critical tool that we can use to combat transnational crime is real-time intelligence. So there has to be a free flow of real-time intelligence, and there has to be a real-time sharing of intelligence amongst the law enforcement authorities. And there has to be swift and decisive action based on those real-time intelligence.
From serving in the Democratic Republic of Congo and as Korea's first resident ambassador to Madagascar, Im has built relationships from the ground up and responded to consular crises in times of conflict and pandemic. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Korea's benchmark KOSPI surpassed the 8,000 mark for the first time ever during intraday trading this morning. The index opened at 7,951.75, down 0.37% from the previous close. Those losses soon reversed course for a climb above the 8,000 level inside just 13 minutes of trading. The record came only 7 trading days after the benchmark first broke the 7,000 mark. The KOSPI closed on Thursday at a new all-time high, only 19 points off the 8,000 level. South Korea's export prices surged in April, driven by sharp increases in semiconductor prices. According to the Bank of Korea this morning, the export price index for April stood at 187.40, up 7.1% from the previous month to mark its 10th consecutive month of growth. This growth was largely led by the manufacturing sector, specifically computer, electronic, and optical equipment. The import price index fell 2.3% from the previous month as global oil prices eased from earlier spikes triggered by the Middle East conflict. However, prolonged geopolitical tensions in the region continue to pose upward risks for future raw material supplies. Despite these uncertainties, the country's net barter terms of trade index improved, jumping 14.3% on year. And candidate registration for Korea's June 3rd local elections and parliamentary by-elections closes today. The National Election Commission is accepting registrations from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. after applications opened on Thursday. Once registration ends, officials will assign candidate numbers later in the evening. Voters will choose mayors and governors in 16 metropolitan cities and provinces, as well as superintendents of education and heads of smaller local administrative districts. The official campaign period will begin on May 21st and continue through June 2nd, the day before the election. Early voting is scheduled for May 29th and 30th, while the main election day is June 3rd. South Korea's port city of Busan has kicked off its renowned sand festival. Famous for sand sculptures by artists from around the world, the festival is one of Busan's main tourist attractions. To tell us more, we have our culture correspondent Jung Hae-rim at Haeundae Beach. So Hae-rim, how's it looking right now?
Good afternoon, Eunji. I'm standing in front of the festival's main sand sculptures. It's warm and sunny, and the weather definitely reflects the hot atmosphere, as hundreds of visitors are already here on the first day of the 2026 Haeundae Sand Festival. This year's theme is a journey through Busan's history by sand, and the main sculpture features some famous Busan spots, including LCT and Nurimaru APEC House. Right now, 17 massive sculptures have transformed the beach into a living history book. On Thursday, I got to speak with one of the main sculptors of the iconic main piece.
We wanted to capture the entire panoramic view of Busan within a single work. We used the natural sand right here from Haeundae Beach. We compressed the sand using molds and then carved from the very top down to the bottom. Other sculptors were actually shocked by the level of detail, specifically how we hand-carved every single window in the buildings by hand.
That sculpture behind you does look really amazing, Hae-rim. So what are visitors saying about the festival, and are there other activities they can get involved in?
Well, Eunji, I also got to talk to some visitors enjoying the festival.
I'm here on a school field trip. It's so cool, and the sculptors must have put in so much care. It looks like it would have taken a long time to make.
So we're on a cruise, so we're here in Busan for the day. We wanted to come and visit the beach.
They're cool. Yeah. I like them.
Yeah. The biggest one is their favorite.
We came to have lunch nearby and heard about the sand festival, so we stopped by. I saw the train to Busan piece, and it's much more detailed than I expected. You can even recognize the actors, which was really fun.
During the festival, visitors can also enjoy hands-on experiences such as build-your-own sandcastles, media art shows, and water gun fights. Most of these programs run through the weekend until next Monday, May 18th. But if you can't make it this week, the main sand sculptures will remain on display here at Haeundae Beach until June 14th. That's all I have at Haeundae. Back to you, Eunji.
All right, thank you for that, Hae-rim. And BTS is set to perform at the 2026 FIFA World Cup final halftime show alongside global pop stars Madonna and Shakira. According to FIFA, BTS will co-headline the first ever World Cup final halftime show set to take place at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on July 19th. Curated by Coldplay frontman Chris Martin and advocacy organization Global Citizen, the halftime show aims to support the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund in expanding access to education and sports opportunities for children around the world. BTS said in a statement released by its agency Big Hit Music that it will be a great honor to stand on such a meaningful stage where the whole world comes together.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. CIA Director John Ratcliffe traveled to Havana on Thursday for a rare face-to-face meeting with Cuban Interior Ministry officials. This comes as fuel shortages caused in part by a U.S. blockade pushed the island into rolling blackouts, sparking widespread protests in the capital. Cuba said both sides expressed interest in law enforcement cooperation and that Cuban officials stressed the island poses no threat to U.S. national security. Ratcliffe's visit follows Trump's warning earlier this year that Cuba was next after U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in January. Russian attacks destroyed a 9-story apartment building in Kyiv on Thursday, killing 9 people, including a 12-year-old girl, in the 3rd consecutive day of massive strikes on Ukraine. More than 20 residents are still missing. Ukraine's Air Force called it the largest aerial assault since Russia's full-scale invasion began, with more than 1,560 drones fired at Ukrainian population centers since Wednesday. Some 180 sites across the country were damaged, including over 50 residential buildings. Ukrainian officials called on Trump and Xi Jinping meeting in Beijing to use their leverage to pressure Putin to stop the attacks. Closing arguments wrapped up on Thursday in Elon Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI. Musk's lawyers called OpenAI CEO Sam Altman a liar, and OpenAI's lawyers accused Musk of selective amnesia and said he simply wanted to control the company himself. Musk is seeking $150 billion in damages and wants Altman removed. He alleges OpenAI betrayed its nonprofit mission by accepting tens of billions from Microsoft. OpenAI argues that Musk knew about its plans years before filing suit and waited too long to take legal action. A verdict could come as early as next week. Egypt's Luxor Museum on Thursday displayed for the first time a plaster wall from King Tutankhamun's tomb. It is the only surviving artifact of its kind in the world that hasn't been seen by the public and is being displayed more than a century after the tomb's discovery in 1922. The wall bears the seals of Tutankhamun and the guards who protected his tomb. 2 newly restored ancient tombs from Egypt's 18th dynasty was also unveiled, containing scenes of daily life, including agriculture, pottery, wine production, and funerary rituals. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
Summer-like heat is getting stronger across much of the country today. Following yesterday's heat, it's going to be too hot for May in the western and inland regions of Korea. Meanwhile, the east coast will be a lot breezier due to easterly winds. But this unusual heat, hovering nearly 10 degrees higher than norms, will continue through the weekend under dazzling sunshine. So plan accordingly for any outdoor activities. Skies will stay mostly sunny nationwide today, and that strong sunshine will boost UV levels very high during the afternoon, so make sure to have your sun protection items ready. And this afternoon, Seoul gets up to sizzling 32 degrees Celsius, Gwangju at 30 degrees Celsius, but Busan and Jeju will be a lot more comfortable at 24 degrees. Looking ahead next week, heat relief is expected next Wednesday when rain moves in nationwide and helps cool temperatures back down to near seasonal norms.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.
어렸을 때부터 어머니가 미술학원을 운영을 하셨어요. 그래서 거기 가서 놀고 하다 보니까 자연스럽게 미술을 접하게 됐고 저는 그리고 만드는 것 중에 만드는 게 더 재밌었어요. 그래서 이제 도요카 입학해서 다양한 재료들을 경험을 해봤지만 그 중에서도 물레 성형 기법에 굉장히 매료가 됐고